Right now is the governor of Vermont. He is Jim Douglas. He is in Washington, D.C., where he was part of a bipartisan group of governors meeting with President Obama to talk energy policy earlier this afternoon. Governor Douglas, great to have you here on Street Smart. Let's talk about those discussions with the president. What were the main topics?
Well, it was exclusively about energy. There were 11 governors there today. We talked about different perspectives from our parts of the country. It was very candid and wide-ranging. Obviously, there's legislation pending in the Congress, but we took the opportunities to talk about our vision of the nation's energy future. I'm from the Northeast, as you know. We have the lowest carbon footprint in America, the cleanest energy portfolio. We have a regional cap-and-trade process underway now in 11 states, and I talked about that. I talked about the need for large hydro that we get from Quebec to be considered renewable because it's a clean energy source. We had coal-producing state governors talking about their perspectives and the inevitable concerns that they share. So it was really across the board.
I wonder about the unemployment fund. I mean, 6.9% a rate. A lot of states would look at that with envy, but you're running out of money to pay unemployment benefits. What do you think about chances that the federal government's going to come to your rescue and come to the rescue of all the other states that are in similar situations?
Well, and you're right that many states, perhaps most states, are going to be running negative in their unemployment funds soon if they're not already. In the ARA recovery package, there was a waiver of interest payments on those borrowings for a while, but eventually we're going to have to start paying it. What I've asked our legislature to do is take a balanced approach to increase the contributions that our employers pay. I do that reluctantly, but we've got a big problem, as you noted, but also to cap the benefits, because I think we have to share the sacrifice in order to get that fund into the black.
I wonder what you think about the outlook for unemployment. I mean, 6.9%, again, low compared to the national average, but a jump from 6.6 to 6.9. Why is it so low relatively, and why is the slope still so high?
Well, I think part of the problem in the last couple of months is that some of the earlier announced layoffs took effect at the end of the calendar year. But over the long term, I'm still quite concerned. We have an economy that's still fairly soft. We have some companies becoming more productive, so they don't need as many workers. And I think it's going to be a couple of years before we get back on track. But the reason it's relatively low compared to the rest of the country is in part because of our diverse economy. We're not heavily dependent on one particular sector or company. We have travel and tourism, we have some manufacturing, we have education and healthcare sectors that are strong, we have financial services. So the risk is spread among many sectors, and I think that's been a real advantage for us.
Governor Douglas, let me ask, though, and I want to make sure I've got this right. You requested that nearly $60 million loan from the Treasury to pay for those unemployment benefits through the end of March. March isn't so far away. What happens after March? Because the economy is still in a tough place here.
Well, I think we're going to keep borrowing, to be perfectly honest. I think even under a best-case scenario where we get the legislature to make some changes that are needed, we're probably going to keep borrowing for the next couple of years. The projected slope of the balance of that fund is not very pretty for several years into the future. What I'm trying to do is make it not go any deeper than it's likely to be. So I think we're going to be in this situation for a while. The interest rate the Fed charges is pretty hefty, frankly, just under 5%. But here we are. We've got to deal with it.
Any advice to the $100 billion fund to create jobs? I mean, what would Vermont do with money to create jobs?
Well, we're using some discretionary ARA funds for job creation. I've recommended some buying down loans through our Economic Development Authority, some help for our farmers to get their crops in the ground as quickly as possible, more travel promotion money, some money for our Telecommunications Authority to build out broadband infrastructure, which I think is critical to job creation in our state and elsewhere. So I think each state ought to do it its own way. One size doesn't fit all. We'd like to see as much as possible. And of course, infrastructure is important, too. That creates jobs.
All right, we're going to leave it on that note. Vermont Governor Jim Douglas, thank you so much. And later on in our broadcast,